going to be talking about even polynomials and odd polynomials. Okay, so first let's talk about even polynomials. So what do we know about polynomials? So we know that, for example, a quadratic represents x squared, so a quadratic must be an even polynomial. So quadratic is even. Okay, but here we have, of course we could have, other than x squared, we could also have things like x to the fourth, x to the sixth, x to the eighth, you know what I mean? Any even degree polynomial is going to look like this, okay? So that's what it's going to look like. Both of the arrows, or both of the rays, are going to be pointing to the same direction. They could either be pointing down, like this one, or they could be pointing up, okay? So they are pointed up, they are pointed upwards when they're positive. So this one's positive. Okay, so that's positive. Okay, and they're pointed down when they are negative. Okay, makes sense? So when you have for example, a negative x squared, like a quadratic, it usually goes like this. It's concave down. Okay, so when you have, for example, a a positive x squared is going to go like this. A quadratic, right? Positive quadratic. Okay. So now let's talk about the extremas real quick. I just want to go over that. So in this one, what extrema does it have? Well, it has one absolute extrema and is an absolute minimum. Okay. It has an absolute minimum right about here. I guess this one should be at the same length too. So I guess these two are absolute extremas. They are absolute minimums. Okay. It does not have an absolute maximum because it's all pointed upwards, so you're never going to know what the maximum is. And this one is just the opposite. It has a maximum, it has a, okay, so this is an absolute minimum, and this right here has a absolute or global maximum. So that's how these functions work. Now let's talk about odd functions, or odd polynomial functions, right? So odd polynomial functions, this is where this is when the function is positive. So when the function is positive, it's it's going to be going like this. It's kind of it's kind of going to go like this, right? To the right, from the left to the right. Now this one is going top. Okay, so you can see that this one is kind of as it approaches negative infinity. So, as the x values approach negative infinity, you can see that the y values are approaching positive infinity. So that's how an odd, or a negative odd function looks like, okay? So this is a negative odd function because it's going, as the x values approach negative infinity, the y values approach positive infinity. And as the x values approach positive infinity, then the y values are going to approach negative infinity. And in this one, it's just the opposite. As the x values approach negative infinity, is going to go to negative infinity, the y values. And as the x values approach positive infinity, the y values are going to go to positive infinity, okay? We're going to talk about limits pretty soon, and we're going to be exploring how these functions work and, kind of how their end behavior works.